Foundation years are the bedrock of education, so it's natural that you'd want great resources. Well, today on Resource Review, we're evaluating 3 that might just fit the bill. They are a sack full of goodies to encourage reading, a colourful parachute, and a book of creative ideas on how to get the best out of a camera. Recommending today's resources, we have Dr. Christine Taylor, who is Lead Inspector for Early Years Foundation Stage, London Borough of Sutton. On the panel with Christine, we have Mark Edwards-Jones, a freelance education consultant, and Keith Fox, head teacher of St John's Woolworth C Primary School in London and an experienced early years teacher. And Matthew Tosh, our resource investigator, has been out and about, seeing how the resources fare in the classroom. Now, Christine, your first resource for us today looks so exciting. It's the Story Sack. Tell us about this resource and why you like it.
It's a resource to promote reading activities with young children, right. And that's the main feature. It's a high-quality picture book for young children, with resources to support the development. And as we can see, the resources are bright and colourful to support that. What I particularly like about this resource is that it's a multi-sensory resource. So it would appeal to lots of children and promote different learning sort of styles.
Now, how do you envisage this resource actually being used?
A variety of ways. I think initially it would be introduced by an adult through reading and sharing the book, and then using the resources with the children for them to actually retell the story with their friends.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, we gave Matthew Tosh the sack, literally, when we packed him off to Goodinge Children's Centre in Islington, North London, with the Story Sack, to see how Maisley Vandenberg got on with it as she settled down to story time with her group.
The Story Sack? And there's somebody in the Story Sack. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Well, hello, everyone!
Maisley, how have you been using Story Sack today?
Today we introduced the story with a puppet show and a narrator reading the story using the book.
Who will help me plant it out, Cock? Me! Will you help me water the seeds?
It allows for incorporating learning throughout the curriculum into the story, and at the end of the week we can do gardening as well, take the children on a trip to the bakery, and it allows for a great experience for the children, not only a story as such.
Now, you've added some props. Do you think there's enough in the Story Sack to begin with?
I definitely feel that there is enough, but as teachers we're trained to kind of extend a story, and that's what we do. So we've added our own Play-Doh, a watering jug, wheat and a basket. It just makes the story a bit more creative for the children.
And the wheat grew tall and straight. Wow!
Do you feel that this is an activity that you can follow up on?
Definitely. It's not something you'd use once off and only take out of the cupboard every 6 weeks or every 6 months. We can use it for a week or for 2 weeks.
And what in particular do you like about the resources?
Well, I think it's lovely, colourful puppets. The pictures in the books are great. The children have commented on how great the pictures are. It allows for ICT because of the CD. It's got a book about bread, so it's knowledge and understanding of the world. It covers the whole curriculum, really.
And what's been the children's reaction to using the Story Sack?
They really reacted well to it, being colourful, being inviting, the book being lovely. So I can't wait to set it up for them tomorrow and allow them to explore the Story Sack and the props themselves.
These resources are actually aimed at parents. Do you have any qualms at sending the resources home at all?
No, not at all. We actually encourage parents to take puzzles, books and story sacks home with them. I think it really involves them in their child's learning. The book has a recipe in the back as well, so parents can do cooking with their children at home.
Thank you. Well, it's a thumbs up here, and now it's time to go back to the studio.
Keith, do you use story sacks in your school?
Yes, we do, and we bought the whole range. What I love about them is the fact that you've got the glove puppets, and children just respond so well to glove puppets, and they will talk to a puppet all day long. The teacher will be totally ignored. And that draws them in and really makes the resource fully used in the classroom.
Before we get carried away with the children having such a great time, I mean, this is to encourage reading. Do you think it works in that respect?
Very much so, because the beginnings of reading with the very young children is the speaking and listening stuff that we are encouraging and we're trying to get the children to do. And the fact that they can then link what they're talking about and what they're listening to with the actual printed word makes a huge difference.
Mark, what do you make of this resource?
I think it's a great idea, but it's expensive for what it is. And you'd really like to see people making this kind of collection themselves. I love the book. It has a lovely twist on a very, very strong story anyway.
I love this story too. I mean, I remember it.
There's a very nice card for parents, like a prompt card. It has various fun activities, suggestions, things like painting a farmyard picture. Lots of lovely ideas there.
OK, well, thank you very much. Time now to move on to Chris's second choice of resource for us today. And this is something, well, I think really quite wacky. This enormous parachute that we've got down at the front here. Explain this one to us, Chris, and why you like it.
Well, I think it's exciting, innovative and very active, you know, for young children. It can promote teamwork, cooperation, developing their sort of interpersonal skills. They need to listen. I think it's very important with young children that they can follow instruction. There are a number of books and there are a number of websites which are very useful to suggest ways of using the parachutes and different types of games that they might use.
OK, thank you very much. Well, over at Bemerton Children's Centre in North London, Deputy Head Debbie Simpson and her group are using the parachute, and it looks like Matthew is working undercover.
Up, 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 up we go, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up.
There are all kinds of games that you can play with these parachutes. It's ideally suited for outdoors, but if the weather's unkind to you, then there are smaller versions that you can use inside. They range from sizes just under 2 metres up to 4 metres. It's made from washable nylon and there's a hole in the inside to help the air get out. Debbie, what age children have been taking part in the parachute activity?
They're aged 3 to rising 5. So probably most of them in the parachute game are about 4 years old.
And what age group is it best suited to?
Probably 4 or 5. I mean, I've used it with the older children in school right through to the end of primary, and it's a brilliant resource.
1, 2, 3, go!
Oh, the games this morning, we played the name game, so that was focusing on new children and also really good listening, so children whose names were called could run under the parachute. Keeping the ball on the parachute, that's really about working together, and that is, working together, having a look at the ball, where the ball is, and moving the parachute in unison. Today we were using it very basic games, turn-taking, working together. I mean, that ties into what we've been doing in the nursery room. We've been working on behaviour strategies that involves good listening, good looking, good talking and stop. So we were using it very much for those learning intentions.
What's been the children's response to using the parachute?
They've loved it. I mean, the first time that it was introduced, I mean, their skills on listening had to be built on, and as time's gone on with using the parachute over the past week, they've got better and better.
So your overall impressions of the parachute?
It's fun and it's a learning tool.
There we have it, a fun learning tool. And now let's go back to the studio.
Well, Chris, we saw there Debbie emphasise that she had to build up the listening skills when the parachute was introduced. Do you think that's something that's going to happen with many groups as they use it for the first time?
I think that's very important that the early years practitioners actually establish the rules for use of the parachute, particularly with young children, from both the health and safety point of view and from the skills that the children will be developing.
OK. Mark, what do you think of the parachute?
Yes, I think it's a fantastic resource. Initially you might think it's very expensive, you know, £38, it's just some plastic. but in fact I think it's extremely well made. All the seams are double stitched. You know, it's going to last a very long time, even though it's going to get a lot of, you know, quite a lot of rough handling. And it's fantastic for building up social, interaction in a controlled way. The kind of controlled fun and excitement that they were having there. And as Christine said, you can include numeracy. There are listening skills. There's so much that you can do.
Keith, what do you think of the parachute?
I think they're wonderful things, not just for early years children. Very young children are very egocentric. They're thinking about themselves, and with this activity, they have to think of others. Yeah, also, it's a great leveller. We're thinking in terms of excellence and enjoyment for children, and it's fun. But it's fun for everybody, and as you could see from the video, the adults have got as much fun out of it as the children, and the adults are just as expert as the children. You're learning together, and that's what, you know, one of the really great things about it.
Great, well thank you all very much. Time now to move on to Chris's third choice of resource, and this is a book entitled Picture This, 50 Exciting Ways to Use a Camera. Now explain what's in the book, Chris, and why you like it.
Picture This extensively shows how cameras can be used within the early years classrooms and settings across the range, really, of the 6 areas of learning for the foundation stage.
Chris, give us a feel for the content of the book.
I think looking at sort of idea number 2, sort of label it, it actually uses photographs to help the children to become sort of independent as possible, and to help them sort of take care of the setting in which they work. I think what it also does is enable the different areas of learning to sort of be covered, and it's quite useful because they're sort of indicated at the bottom of the page.
Right,
so you've got communication, language literacy, mathematical development, personal, social and emotional development. So it's linking into the areas of the foundation stage curriculum, which is key.
Mark, what do you think?
I'm always very conscious of cost, and
Right.
I think this is a good book to have as a reference. You know, you could either read it in the library, or you know, a school could have a copy and share it around the teachers. I think otherwise it might just sit, you know, and be used very rarely. But it's good. I mean, the
Did it
ideas
have
in it are
ideas
good.
that you perhaps hadn't thought of? I mean, there's 50 exciting ways.
Yes, there are so many
That's
ideas
a lot,
in there.
isn't it?
I think what it would have benefited from is a contents page, so that you can actually see the whole layout.
Keith, what did you make of this resource?
I like the book. I think there are some ideas that are very, very obvious, like take pictures of the children and put it on the wall and put their name underneath. Yes, who hasn't been doing that for 25 years? However, some of the stuff, like taking the photograph of the ice cube, the children can actually do it.
I think what it does do is actually sort of record what's happened. So it's looking at sort of observation skills, really, and children being able to sort of sequence events and going back time and time again and not sort of losing that.
Well, thank you all very much. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. But just to recap, the 3 resources that we've looked at are the Little Red Hen Story Sack from Story Sack Limited, a large parachute supplied by Romper, and Picture This, 50 Exciting Ways to Use a Camera, published by Lawrence Educational Publications. For more information about the resources that we've featured today, go to our website. It's teachers.tv/resource review, or if you want to email us, resourcereview@teachers.tv. A very big thank you to our panel, to Chris, to Mark and to Keith. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.